So today's been quite a busy day, even though it's supposed to have been prep day. There's not much prep for me to have done. Sitting navigator. And for those who don't know, tomorrow is Honsabas at Kilani. It's gonna be a very interesting day with all the activities happening. It feels like a Super Bowl final. But yeah, nevertheless, we'll observe out of keen interest for the festivities, and we will figure out what not to do from there. And take it as it comes. So yeah, back to Strictly Street. What is it? And let's do a deep dive and explain it. For all, for City of Cape Town. And you are welcome to join in on the chat. And you're also welcome to join in on the group. If you haven't been added as yet, sit tight. I think, a lot of people probably want to know what the point of all this is. And I think I've covered it before. I've done it, I think, in somewhat of a summary at Midval while we were waiting for a round to take place or a race to take place or a cleanup or whatever the case may be. But in a nutshell, with what I've witnessed, it was an eye-opener, going to a different province, seeing, thankfully so, that there was still a lot of mechanical sort of vehicles in the sense of manual gearbox, a lot less driver aid, a lot less sort of just being dependent on traction control and things like that. And interestingly enough, that was a topic that was clearly quite contentious in MSA regulations from what I saw. And I'm not too sure in particular what the sudden and recent favor for it is, but we'll cover all of that as we uncover. But yeah, from what I saw in 2021, 2022, and most certainly in a ridiculous number of events for 2023, the more and more I just started questioning what was going on around the country. And I don't think I saw it in 2022. I think in 2022 it was very much the sort of a first glance, and the appeal of it, for lack of a better word. 2023 started off good, and I think I missed one or two events for a very ridiculous reason, but either way. I started noticing things, having now settled in and been to the major hubs, and started saying to myself, you know what, there can't just be racing, formalized racing in the Northern Cape, the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape, KZN, Gauteng. What about Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Free State, Northwest, which is a forgotten province. And, obviously engaging and speaking to some of the guys, and hearing from Nati, of the Zeerust airfield, and hearing from others of this airfield in the Free State, and slowly just doing my own investigation, coming out of my own little bubble, and saying, well, if there isn't something in this area, can something not be done like, Kimberley drags? And that's how I came across Plaaspad in Randfontein. Also, someplace I'd like to go, on a road. And that's how I got wind of the Bushveld Heat drags. Again, sort of via Nati, on the road. And the more and more I started to tell myself, what I approached City with was clearly viable. And given what sort of you could see, it was well supported. It seemed to be more for the community, more accessible, certainly. And the more I kind of just started to wonder, where the issues are. And I mean, this is sort of coupled with a lot of people contacting me, when am I coming here, when am I going there, and me saying, what, it really wasn't part of my consideration, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm just learning from, Cass and team, and trying to understand it from there so I can apply it down here. And being introduced, being aware of all these guys, but being introduced to guys like Harry and guys like JP, and sort of just, stepping up and saying, well, let me come through and see how this works, and them not understanding the concept, I suppose, skepticism, which is fair, but very different to here in Cape Town, at least willing to see what it was about, hear what it was about, and, being told openly about the resistance, and, that's not the way it's done here, and the guys are only allowed to do it from a certain time, and me saying, you're thinking about it all wrong. And obviously then gaining that certain level of trust, or maybe that intrigue, to allow this to flourish and to go ahead. But the more I got into it, the more I sort of realized that the issues that we have here are the same issues that is happening elsewhere. It seems like the Cape provinces have it the most. It seems like KZN and Joburg and Gauteng rather have their stuff sorted at the core. But there's still a lot of people out there saying, we don't have facilities. And not so much in Gauteng, because it's ridiculous. I think there was, in 1 week, 4 or 5 events over a space of 7 days. We call it 8 days, I suppose. And, following through and completing a series of events, I think gave me the insight that I needed to understand the struggles, and you could sort of clump challenges with that, and the positives, the negatives, the things that made sense and the things that didn't. And slowly over the time I formed, with the request of certain associations, and with the request for information from other associations, and the advice and ideas and input from some individuals, I thought to myself, we need to actually take a step back to what we had. And here at home, when I kind of made that statement, I could see the older guys, if you want to call them the OGs, their faces almost light up, about the way it was and the racing back then. And I think we obviously lost that. We lost some kind of continuity with the passing of Wally. and this new generation of leadership under Kuven. We seem to have lost it. And someone made the statement this evening, in fact, and I asked them if I could use it to say that, can the people who write the rules actually be the ones who have raced before? Not necessarily the ones who are racing now, be the ones that have raced before. And in a way, you want to almost say out of the mouths of babes, if you will, because it's someone that is also looking in from the outside, in my opinion. They've been on the scene because they do know some of the OGs. They can identify them from a distance. But clearly they see it. Clearly a lot of people see it. And those that suffered in 2023, because 2022 was still full up in most places, probably mostly in the coastal provinces, from what I can gather. I mean, Joburg doesn't seem to have been affected by this much. I think, in my opinion, the minute it became an MSA thing, they were almost immediately affected by the rules. Vehicles not prepped according to a standard, sort of safety equipment, safety apparel, safety wear, all of these things. And it's just interesting to note that it took a year, with people obviously pointing the finger at me and saying, you're smoking something, and it's not the case, it can't be, and this is good for drags. It took a year for people to register that, and now I'm standing here going, well, I'm going to be that doers. I told you so. And the ones who saw it in 2023, they almost gave up, and I don't blame them for that or hold them accountable for that. I don't know the positions they were in, and from what they've described, it was just unnecessary pressure and stupidity, and I can relate, having just walked away myself in 2009. So, we even said at one point, we just need to let all of this just burn to the ground, come to an end, and we start afresh. And I even remember saying, this kind of works in my favor, without anyone realizing this all works in my favor. The absolute destruction from within MSA itself toward the community and unto itself. Given the mess of putting races in the position of choosing. Now, some people probably still don't even register it, and that's fine. And I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to focus on, as far as possible, on what I'm trying to do. And, 2023 just started to ramp up like you wouldn't believe. And all of the non-MSA events were, without a doubt, probably the most enjoyable, except for drag nationals, because of, I suppose, the good marketing, the branding, the allure of money, of prize money. It became something on par with what I witnessed at Midvaal with the cash days organized by, JP and team and 0-1 Street Society. But if you look back at the 37 events, the most enjoyable were the ones that were not MSA. And that's sad to say, but it's the truth. And I, in 2023, obviously eventually agreed to go to additional places that I hadn't planned for. I still had places asking me, when are you going to come down and maybe do a live from here? And that was great because they saw the point of this, which even to this day, some people don't. Some people are more dead set on being divisive and coding, and whether it's intentional, unintentional, serious or not, it's just a waste of time. It's especially a waste of my time because I have better things to do. And when I say that, I mean, working on things that add value. I don't have the time for the emotion, especially if it's unwarranted emotion, unwarranted drama, unwarranted politics, where there is no depth in any argument. It just falls flat on its face. It adds no value. And I don't need that value added to me. I'm a big, ugly boy enough. I can take care of myself. But it just pains me when there are so many that are vulnerable and we are just seemingly more and more ungrateful, that it makes me wonder, do I even do this at all? And I suppose the only thing keeping me going was the individuals around the country that had no access to this. And I mean absolutely nothing. So, for me, the most enjoyable part was just the traveling to and from the tracks. And I didn't stop often, but I stopped when needed. I stopped when there was emergencies. I remember stopping because some army guys needed help, and not that I could give it to them, but they had no signal, so I could take their details down and convey at the next location, their location. And I made a few new subscribers because I'm doing nothing. The car is speaking. There's a massive, marketing sort of magnet vinyl on the vehicle. And they asked me, what's this? I just see racing. And I explain it for a bit. I've got all the time in the world when I'm on the road. And I suppose that kept me going because, it just started to get weird. And when I say weird, I mean, I looked to the KZN province and the Gauteng province and the back end of South Africa and the east side of SA. And outright, sort of rawly, where the money is. Those guys thought nothing of, tubbing a car 80k, tubbing a car whatever. Completely building a car from scratch and all of these things were nothing to them. They built race cars. Here we don't necessarily have that. And to hear those guys complain, but not that silly complaint of, racing's getting expensive. It was more a case of just them feeling, and not all of them, some of them feeling and being neglected, considering this whole circus as one big one and them being the entertainment, the clowns. Now that's not what you want competitors to be feeling and thinking, especially if you want to be calling them athletes. Now the two sort of scenarios are not linked, but I started considering everyone that competed as an athlete, which made logical sense. So here you have these athletes saying, it's costing us more just to get to where we're going for a chance at winning. And we kind of overlooked that, in my opinion. Yes, we say the improvements are expensive, and to compete, be competitive, progress, that's expensive. And we actually don't even bother to take an in-depth look at how expensive. Wade mentioned something this afternoon about the shoot, 4K, 8K, whatever the case may be. Now, a lot of the times we don't focus on anything but performance. I mean, I've seen it all the years. People fit supercharged, turbocharged setups into base entry bodies that maybe don't have the required equipment, and they don't think about upgrading that. Some do, some don't. And I've seen near misses where guys demonstrate the performance and the power of their vehicle, but they can't demonstrate the opposite in terms of bringing it to a halt. And we still see it to this day in numerous videos or posts or whatever it may be on, severe accidents, crashes, and rolls. Evening, the game. How you doing, brother? Yeah, long time. Hope you're gonna go through Tumkuze tomorrow and enjoy. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get into that as well at some point. I kind of touched on it. But in short, I had sponsors lined up. We made agreements. And the minute the agreements were made, it became a case of them wanting to control. And speaking to a racer / tuner, an associate, long-time associate and friend, his words were clear, wees in beheer en bestuur. Because people are going to want the ideas. And I knew that, and I just needed to hear someone else say it, I suppose, for me to just register that and keep it conscious. But yeah, it kind of got ugly where I just eventually said, you know what, that's not what this is about. I'm not selling my channel. I'm giving you an opportunity to be part of it for a greater good. And they just, I think they saw something else. And you'll notice it used to say SK Racing and Friends. Because they didn't want to be named. They didn't want to be in the spotlight. They wanted to remain somewhat anonymous. So eventually I just said, you know what, here's all your money. Not a problem. Cheers. I'm going to have to go and look for more sponsors. And, that was an example of me saying, and maybe what I said being true, in that we need to look to the bigger picture and maybe outside. I mean, it was a mix of outside and of aligned to the industry sponsorship. But, that's one reason why. And then it kind of just the stamps got plucked, as they say, in favor of, just stopping the lies because of the ridiculousness of the rules. And sitting in a meeting and hearing guys saying things like, but there's some ridiculous rules which no one could clarify for us. We couldn't get clarification. Fit a slick, fit a roll cage. Fit a fuel cell, fit a roll cage. And all of these things, to me, made very little sense. And it was, because if you fit a slick, you have to cut on the chassis and you have to gut the chassis. Now that made sense to me. The minute you start cutting and gutting, roll cage. So some people were being told, because of those things, fitting a slick, and you can't fit it to this car, you need to gut the cage. Gut the chassis, so fit a cage. But not all cars. You may need to change the brakes to be able to fit a slick, to accommodate that, because your calipers might be bigger. So what's the call there? Well, that's up for debate. So, fit a fuel cell, fit a roll cage, but it's just being blanket statement, and not made by the people who are meant to be making it, but made by racers. And when confronting the individual making the statement, it's but it's all about safety. So you're now just confirming the bullshit rules automatically by making that statement. It's all about safety. So that kind of made me look at MSA events, non-MSA events, fun, no fun, safety in both spaces. And I mean, you'll know, going to Mkuze, it's just a safe environment. You've got all the space in the world. So it's a bit unfortunate. I've been planning for 2025 with the lives, and most notably just, honestly, Midvaal, Fast 5, Rock Raceway, Plaaspad, Mkuze, Zeerust, Tabanshu is on there, to be honest. I've spoken to Karen at Talton, and she was still trying to find, or they were trying to find their feet, and we've sort of had informal chats about the challenges that they had, and I tried to explain to her the whole point of what I'm trying to do. I'm not a content creator. I'm not there to get likes just for the sake of likes. So I've obviously heard her argument and said, well, wish you all of the best, see how it goes. And they've had some challenges. They've had one event cancelled. There's constantly back and forth. And I feel for them. I mean, kudos and hats off and all respect to them for keeping it alive and keeping it going. And I mean, Gauteng, I don't know. It's interesting because I don't know how viable it is. Let's rattle it off. There's Talton, Extreme Raceway, Red Star Raceway, Rock Raceway, Midvaal, Midway, Fast 5. And I'm sure there's another handful. There's Plaaspad in Randfontein. And even if you could just go around to the provinces next to those, which is close proximity, there's Zeerust, there's, Alice Ras. And obviously KZN is within reach, and Mkuze is within reach. There's ODI. For the smallest province in this country, one of the smallest ones, it's got the highest concentration of tracks, and they're making it work. So, I'm looking to 2025, just to answer your question, what happened with the lives. I kind of gave some insight there. And a whole host of other things as it came along. I'm telling myself, you know what, it's happening for a reason, so I'm just going to let it happen. And yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you're out of it for a while, but that beast of yours was insane, bro. Yeah, look, it pains me at every sort of date when, I can't make it to an event. And I kind of foresaw it, and I've been saying for a while this, eventually my funds are going to run out, and I think with 37 events last year, that probably broke its back. What did I do in 2022? Maybe 5, 6, if not 7 events. And it's just unfortunate that the sponsor that came on board had other intentions, and I wasn't going to stand for that, in one way to maybe be looked at as a sellout. I sold off the channel, and there it goes. And I'm sure it would have been a success. It is a success. It's just I'm sort of taking the necessary steps to ensure that it grows with a proper foundation. So yeah, it is unfortunate, and that's why I say I'm looking at 2025. Hopefully, it will be a lot better. This year alone, I counted 90 events. Would I be able to get to 90? I would actually like that challenge to see if I can. It probably would have involved more flying than driving, and shipping equipment down and doing a final, the last mile, I suppose, hiring of a vehicle. But by all accounts, already I'm on 35 events for next year, and I haven't even looked at any MSA events yet. And there is a bit of a mix cross-discipline as well, but I'll only really see the full calendar then. If I must look at, and I'm not even including Mkuze yet, because I don't know when they are. I can predict more or less when Cass may have it, so that makes it 39 at least. We're nearly halfway to 90 for this year, And I haven't even considered, you know, things like the special events that JP may hold at Midwall. The addition of, maybe Stephen and Chris growing the Tabanchu drags. Maybe Team 99 having another event at Zeerust along with, the Northwest Street Outlaws. And then considering KZN and Aldo. And, with me now saying, well, I'm just done with Kilani, and not even looking at Saldana. Maybe they'll come around and register. And, Alice Russ events, if that decides to go more than just an annual, and maybe getting to Extreme and getting to Red Star and getting to Midway. I didn't even consider Midway. So we'll see. I mean, event organizers should actually sponsor this live. I don't know. I've kind of crossed that bridge by asking the question. But at the same time, looking at the organizers and listening to their challenges, I kind of would rather pump funds into them. I mean, knowing the challenges that they go through, knowing the challenges at the tracks, I feel more for them than I do for this. I mean, this is an outlet for everyone, yes, but if the event organizers are pumping funds into this, they are going to struggle even more to run their events, and then there's nothing to actually broadcast, So that's how I've kind of been looking at it. I have plans, like I said, and hopefully in this final quarter, I can kind of make some headway. And we'll see from there. That's all I can say at this stage. I've got a few meetings next week and the week thereafter. October's kind of quiet in Cape Town, so except for the tomorrow, I've got some time this month to actually go and follow up meetings and engage with new potential sponsors. They appear to be the right ones, if I can say that. They've got the right mindset, they can see the vision, and I think that works a lot better for all of us in the end. Not just opportunists, and not just guys that, aren't transparent and can't be open, and rather just say, you know what, guy, I don't have the budget for this. Engage. And that's really where the problem's been, because I've tried to make it affordable for everyone. But at the same time, I'm saying the value that you're getting, no one can quantify that as yet. And I have started and I've looked at it and I've said, this is actually what it's valued at in reality. And we're only going to realize that once it goes viral, which it's been threatening to do. And as I said earlier, I've been holding it back. And there's a lot of things that I wanted to do to make it a lot more than what people expected. It appeared ambitious, but I had already tested everything, so it works. And I kind of wanted it to align with collaboration with other creators, just to make it something that we can all leverage off of and benefit from. And I mean that holistically. There's a lot of guys that are talented that, to give you an example, there's a guy that's been on this platform longer than me, years longer. But his viewership, his subscribership is huge. It's much greater than mine. But his viewership isn't even 10% of mine. And I mean that in terms of volume, not the view count. The view count is irrelevant because someone can watch your video for 10, 20, 30 seconds and you've got a view. but your watch hours is the more key metric. I know I'm kind of digressing here, but I can see all these things, and for those that can't, for those that can, it's going to work out really well for them because they've shown their commitment and the fact that they are keen to get stuck in. And for those who aren't, unfortunately, the reality is they're going to cry. Because I'm saying, guys, this is, for lack of better words, for all of us, it's a gold mine in every single aspect for the creator. Because I'm saying, if you want to generate income now, you're more than welcome to share your content with me. I'll share it here. We can pull the metrics for your video and we can split the income the way YouTube splits it. It's your content, so you take most of it. I'll take a portion as a commission. Nope, guys, don't want to do that. So they'll rather continue making content, chasing subscribers, chasing views, but when it comes down to their requirements to be able to monetize, they're still sitting there at, very little hours. So who am I to argue with them, And yes, I suppose, I've been told the channel needs the content and all of these things, and me just having to deal with the back and forth and the lack of actual interest to look at the possibility from here in the mother city. I said, we're all suffering. I'm just including myself out of solidarity. I'm the only one sitting here going, beautiful day outside, beautiful weather, let me go and enjoy. So yeah, I feel you, brother. I hear you, I see you, I read you. But in reality, I can't expect event organizers to contribute to this. I mean, even if you count them, there's 10 of them. And, they're going to all give 2,000 Rand each. That's going to be a commitment per event. I don't think people register that. And I could and I should sharpen that pencil and work out the bare necessities and get to a figure. And it's probably around 20,000 to go to an event, traveling. Whether I drive or fly, the only saving is going to be time. In terms of cost, it worked out the same because when I get there, I need a vehicle anyway. So what I've saved in time, I'm going to be spending possibly in funds because to rent a vehicle isn't necessarily cheap. So, I'm pretty sure 20,000 per event would cover it, for instance. So everyone's going to give 2,000. How many events are there? On average, 4 to 6. So we're looking at 120,000 Rand. Now you start to get to the figures and you say, yes, this is actually, it's a lot. And, there are other ways. There are many other ways. We could, as a collective, share and join and subscribe and share it with people and get the numbers up. That is one logical way. Because the reality is, if you have 100,000 subscribers, the minute you click that live button, 100,000 people will see it. That's the reality, So there's a lot of things to consider there. I mean, if I were to push and say, guys, we're going to focus just on subscriberships to get the numbers up, and we get to 100,000, and we say, the views get to 100,000, or I think it was 1 million views that I worked out, it would make the channel self-sufficient to a degree. Not entirely, but it would make it sufficient enough to say, okay, now I can maybe focus on this full time and, commit to doing 4 events because it becomes recurring, and as it happens, it grows, and those are just things that's compounding. And when it comes to compounding, I'm king of that. So, there's all those things to consider as well, where if we take that approach, that's one way. So we go on a massive drive and we say, can everyone just subscribe and watch something, and we see if it really materializes. I've kind of done all those exercises already, so the numbers I can see, and I'm very sure it will work based on what I've seen, and scaling it up and down, it's followed that exact same trend. So I've identified it, and I've even costed other people's channels where they've told me they've made X, and I've looked at it like, no, you're actually making X. And then, that appears to be correct. So, yeah, that's that. Hopefully I've answered that for you. We'll see. 2025, we're looking to that. And obviously I've had to scale back on a few of the technologies. I've had to dispose of a few of the technologies in anticipation of it becoming obsolete in any case, because I'm going to do this now in 2025. So now I need to look at 2025 and get other devices and hardware. So there's that also to consider. But with regards this strictly street, and me just sort of interacting with everyone and hearing from the guys like the game, and seeing his vehicle in action, how the build has been going, what he's done to it, seeing the content he's gotten out there to spread the word of his build, and actually then seeing him in person and seeing it run and interacting with him, and that's exactly the market. And if you look at other organizers like Loud Addicts, I think it's Loud Addicts, yeah, JP and Lenta, if I've pronounced it correctly, they've kind of taken that as their own in KZN as well. A kind of a Mexico at the track, with Dez's blessing, and obviously with the equipment that Dez says he gives them. And it's not, a cheap thing to accomplish. It's not cheap at all. It's a lot cheaper than here. And from what I've heard, it's meant to be a lot cheaper than Eastern Cape, and that's going to be a subjective thing. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a 1,000 rand thing. It's in the 10s, 20s, 30s, and that's just the venue. The one that I spoke about earlier, that unimproved land here in Cape Town at CWA, 40k ex VAT. Could be 30, 35, whatever it is. It's not 1,000, 2,000 rand. Killarney, which seems to be very secretive about their cost, which makes no sense to me, because it's like walking into a shop and I'd like to buy milk. Oh, why do you want to buy the milk? What are you going to use it for? What do you need it for? Well, we've got two different types of milk, but why do you want this one, not the other one? Would the other one maybe work for you? Instead of just on the shelf, give me a price. The secrecy just makes no sense to me. I mean, Killarney is what, a half day 40, full day 60k for a private event. If we're talking a public event, you're talking at least 100 plus, 300 to 450 I've been quoted, informally, not formally. And 400,000 I've been told by individuals who also queried. And there it is, So what's so secretive about that? That is what it is. I didn't look at it and go, are you out of your mind? I mean, I went and got a quote for concrete barriers, and we ended up looking at something like 120 million rand for concrete barriers. So now if you look at venues like Desi Raceway, Killarney, maybe a different story, but Desi Raceway, concrete barriers put in place. It might be cheap up in KZN. I might just get to KZN and go and manufacture them and bring them down. But I didn't flinch when I got the quote, because there's material in that. There's labor. It's not something you can buy off the shelf. It's bespoke. So, yeah, there's a lot of aspects of these things that people don't understand. And it's usually the ones that shout the loudest about, you made promises. And you're like, my guy, the fact that you think it's going to happen overnight, there's few cells missing, or there's a couple of batteries short upstairs, for those that don't register that. And that's kind of also the point of why I said, we can just do this on the street. And my words were specific. It was, what I have planned is impossible outside of the planned event. It's impossible to race in those locations. I'm not saying it because, how dare people, and they can't because they're going to be. You literally cannot do it. You cannot get on the start line and wait for the traffic to come by, find a gap and race. It is impossible. But City is more interested in wanting to know what that impossibility is so that they can take it and run with it themselves. I wasn't born yesterday. And irrespective of the speculation and, Dom, you're paranoid, that's fine. But this is why we deal in contracts. So give me a contract, a memorandum of understanding, because then if you go and run away, I'll take you to court. And you're going to see your gut more than anything else. That's the reality. There's no nastiness or malice there. It's business. In the very sense, at its core, it's business. But City doesn't want it that way because they want it their way. And I'm going to make more statements here. So does WPMC. So do many of the organizers that can't see the vision because they're just chasing money. And I think some of them should be lucky I'm not mentioning them at this stage. But it will probably come at some point. It's the fact. It's the truth. Take the puck. Be a big boy, a big girl. Pull up your panties. And let's move on. This point isn't crying about it because you had a puck. You took a puck. So, this whole logic to me makes sense. There's existing road. Traffic can be rerouted. These are all things people are welcome to steal. Traffic can be rerouted. Facilities can be put in place. Ambulance, fire, sewage management, water, solid waste management for the litter, public discipline. Am I missing anything, City of Cape Town? This is the reason why I met with you. To ask you, what are your expectations, man? You guys do the events. All I want to do is say, right, guys, we're racing. It's your job to tell me what you expect in place. It's not my job to tell you, do you have authorization? Oh, do you know you need this? Obviously, I don't know, you jackass. That's why I'm asking you. But no, City of Cape Town is half asleep with their fingers in their asses. And not all of them, but most of them. Just following the same routine of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, O, error, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, O, problem, A, B, C. You get the picture. That's how our government structures and systems work. And it's 2024, man. It's about to be 2025, and we're still doing things the same way. And there's not a single person that doesn't mention the same fact. And those that aren't struggling are doing it via connections. And they're doing it because they've been through it and they've perfected it. That's great. But that's not intellectual property, man. That's what the city expected. So what is so hard in the city? Just coming up with a formula and saying, this is how we're going to do it. And if you need it, this is what you need. They've got something simply. If you've got under 200 people, you don't really need their involvement. 2,000 people, you need X, 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 X. 4,000, you need X, 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 X. I'm not interested in that. How much for full-scale event? What is needed? then I will go and look back and say, well, you know what, you say it's not needed here. I actually would need it, so I'm going to put it in there. So why bother applying for 2,000? I'll just apply for 10. But City can't think that way. You know, it's like Sanitech giving me a quote. Came to 100 and something thousand rand for toilets. And just quickly, you know, they said that the way they work it out is one toilet for every 50 females and one toilet for every 100 males. Now you tell me what a toilet's going to look like if 100 people must use it, irrespective of what they're using it for. Or if 50 females must use a toilet, what it's going to look like, and never mind what it even looks like, what the queue is going to look like. So now I'm sitting there going, you know, I should engage with City, because City will be able to say things that are logical. Oh, the August tour covers a distance of this. We have foot traffic of X. That's the number I'm looking for. How many toilets do you make provision for along this entire route? And I'm looking for that number to then go back to Sanitech and say, you provide the toilets to this place. This is a more logical number. Give me a quote based on that. And I couldn't get that information from City because they're too busy wasting time thinking so slowly and thinking of reasons why it can't happen and thinking up excuses that I just went and worked it out myself and said to Sanitech, I prefer this because this is a lot more hygienic, and I prefer it being janitored because that makes a lot more sense. And, you know, I would like it to be serviced as well throughout the day. I don't know, but if I know the cost, I can tell myself, is it worth spending it to ensure that the enjoyment is there? And there's one of the key nuggets about why I know my events will be successful. And that's got nothing to do with people also trying to replicate that. They'll never be able to replicate it the way I do it. It's a fact. That's a fact. And just because you can't see it doesn't give you the right to project on me and give me crap about it. So, you know, to all those people, you know, just chill. Take a chill pill. You know, if you're not going to add value, go dig a hole, climb in it. Something. Don't waste my time. But onto the Strictly Street, you know. So I started looking at the drags of yesteryear, and with the response I got from just a sample of guys, to me it made more sense to just run club classes, street classes. You know, no need for funny car and modified race and, you know, top fuel and all of this crap that just got taken verbatim from America. And yes, okay, you know, when I looked at the structure, the NHRA warrants the FIA to be able to sanction and ratify drag records on their behalf, and the FIA gave that right to MSA here in South Africa. And what WOMS is aligned to, only WOMSA knows, because they don't specify what that is. But I'm sitting here going, we are not America. Firstly, show me all of the Mark 1 Golfs in America. Count them, the ones that are racing. Even the Hondas, for as many as they are. Even the Hondas, the import guys. Show me how many of them are street cars racing. And you won't get to the number that's in South Africa. For as small as we are, a 1/50th of the US, our cars are mostly street. So now I'm saying, well, wouldn't it make more sense to just have your old school 4AF, 4BF, 4BR, 6AR, and the usual, you know, power adder? Because, I mean, these days, it's not like it used to be where, oh, you know, I'm going to get a little T3, T4 turbo. Whoop-de-doo. Now you go GT4094, GT35 ball bearing, and you're suddenly making 3-4 times the power. The percentage for power adders, you know what? You're going to add a power adder over here to race. So it's not, oh, I'm going to gain 10-20%. You're coming for power. If you're making power, you'll be classed accordingly. If you're not making power, there's going to be no point in you crying and saying, oh, but look, I'm not making the power of these turbocharged guys, and I'm in the class and I'm lost. And then we end up with the MSA regulations as we currently have them. Because some guys cried about, their cars not being able to beat race cars, but they are fast, they're running world record times, but how did they lose this race? So now we're going to accommodate them. This isn't about accommodating a small fraction. This is about saying, are we here to model? Are we here to pose, or are we here to race? So I proposed a few things, and I'm not going to go into detail much, but I mean the usual, and I may have to review this. A super street class, a true street class, a modified street class, race modified, and that's where it starts. From there, all hell breaks loose. 1 power adder, 2 power adders, 3 power adders, all power adders, outlaw. And then further modifiers. So my classes are already probably looking as messed up as the 2010 to 2021 class types. And this is just for street cars. Now I'm saying, I'm going to cater for all. We're obviously going to start at a few. And this is why I wanted to have these sort of private sessions and just invite whoever comes. Right, let's see what we're working with. So where do the majority fall? Because I noticed a few things last year. And what I noticed I'm keeping to myself, because that's my intellectual property. And we were so oversubscribed in some areas and undersubscribed in others. It's a joke. But to what end? Because we were taking classes verbatim. And it's even somewhere in the regulations. Verbatim from America. 1 or 2 classes, and we're adopting it here. To accommodate who? When we say we need a minimum of X in a class to have a class ratified, now we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot already. And I've made notes here, roll cage requirements per safety in mind. Structural pillars altered, structural chassis altering. Extreme measures to save weight that weakens the structure, and proof of that, not just a thumb suck or an NCAP rating that bears no relevance to racing. Same for the chute, the logic behind the chute. I would much rather say, well, fit a chute, because what is the issue? Your concern is crashing. But if there's nothing to crash into and there are no spectators to crash into, you're probably better off having a chute and pulling the chute. Irrespective of the direction you end up going, if there's no barriers, and I keep saying this and I'm not actually going to use the example because it's starting to work on my nerves already. If you have the runoff in any direction, you pull the chute. That's been proven as a means to slow you down quickly. The direction that the chute deploys in is a different story. So now we've got a different problem to deal with. And if we look at things like, the class modifiers, I've obviously got the drive. So I've got the powertrain, the state of aspiration, the drive. Those are my core classes. From that, I could expand on that and go completely haywire by category and then by index. And at the end of the day, we can handicap the race out of the race sort of from that to finalize and get finality. So, it's very much a good faith system, and I'm happy with that. If someone is willing to cheat the system, let them cheat. They're not going to get very far. And it's going to be very embarrassing after the fact to be standing there with a trophy and going, I've got regional colors. I'm number one. I'm the fastest in the world. But it's a lot more embarrassing when someone goes, hey, I'm calling bullshit on all of this because there was no one you raced. And people see it, they saw it, but they've said nothing. So then they are just as much idiots because they also benefited by getting awards. And maybe there's some that even didn't even realize it. But either way, onto the classes. Examples would be 4SF for Super Street. 4TF for True Street. I mean, why do we have to have a 4FT class? I don't understand that because you got factory turbo. That's not my problem. We're here to race. So you've got a factory turbo, you're going to go in 4BF. So if I get 6 of you, I can say, okay, well, now I can start putting it into categories or put you into an index. But you're going in 4BF, end of story. For what do I need a 4FT? To make you feel better. You came to a race, but now you want... There's a beautiful word for this, and I'll probably come to it later. But you want to almost be accommodated. But there's a limit to that, and it doesn't involve your feelings. That's what I'm trying to say. If you want to be 4AR, your aspirated rear wheel, go. If you're not quick, reevaluate why you're not quick. Start with yourself, maybe. I mean, I weigh now 123 kilos. I got down to just over 110, under 110. I'm trying to pick up. So my point there is, if I'm racing 140 kilos and my car's slow, how about I just lose 60 kilos? And then suddenly my car's quicker. It didn't change a thing except myself. That's what I'm trying to get at here. But if you want to come out and say, I'm going to add a turbocharger, or I'm a factory turbo, that's your problem. We'll determine that in the times. And we may even do power to weight ratios and see what's for what and juggle them all around. But we need to find a standard that's not going to change every year. That's the most annoying thing. And I mean, I've got categories here for power adders, and the more obvious ones are there: turbocharging, supercharging, nitrous. There are a few contentious ones which people probably complain about, and I'd love to hear those arguments when those moments arrive. And then I've got power modifiers, I've got delivery modifiers, I've got weight modifiers. And I'm not going to go into detail for any of those because I know it's going to end up on someone's list. So now, if I get my own timing equipment and we run these non-sanctioned events, a slip is a slip. I don't give a damn about FIA and MSA and NHRA. I might just start the SHRA. And then we do our own ratification. It's all I care about. Slip is a slip. I'll sign an affidavit. We're setting up the equipment to the standard 402.336. The traps are 20 meters before and after the finish line. The sensors are center to center at the prescribed distances. The equipment's been tested with a vehicle that's been... I'll send a vehicle around the damn country and say, here's one we tested, this is the time we got. We take it here, time we got. This is the time we got. Time. If this vehicle runs this time, it runs that time. So I have all the measures that can be put in place and the processes, policies, procedures to do all of this. That's not hard at all. My only hurdle is the organizations that have control over what is supposedly public space. And their reasons make no sense. Oh, you can't race on the road because, it's a public road. Public road is built to the same specification as the surfaces used at circuits. So, what is the reason why we can't? Are we going to damage the surface? And even if we do damage it, at what rate are we going to damage it? So then give me a figure and I can add that into the budget. Oh, we're going to damage the road at a rate of this and it's going to cost 100,000 Rand every 5 years. What's 100,000 Rand? Here you go. For repairs to the road, for your maintenance that you need to do anyway. None of the arguments and the logic make sense from the government entities and structures. So, at the end of the day, Super Street, there's the classes. The philosophy is about retaining the essence of what we have here in SA. We can't compare what we have here to America. Yes, there's a handful. There's Duppy, there's Ian, there's Klein Piet, there's Marius. Fine. I'm not saying they can't come and race. But what I am saying is, how many did I count now? I don't even need both my hands to count them. But the rest, your Leon Duploys, your Glens, your Terry Yannikakis, your Varshan Diesel from VD Trucking. Those are insanely quick vehicles that still look like vehicles. And can we consider them street? Possibly not, because there's going to be criteria that are put in place. Because someone asked this question as well today, what is street racing? And I'm sitting here going, what is a street car? What is the definition of street? Take the definitions apart word for word and then try and combine them into something that makes logical sense. And does it work? And then say to yourself, now, how would we verify this? And what I said, if you have driven an entire day with a car, from home to wherever you went to drop your people, to work, to clients, if you could drive that car on the road, you're getting there. If you sat in traffic all the way home, all the way to your clients, wherever, you're getting there. Is it safe to drive? You're almost there. Is it roadworthy? Does that matter? No, but these things matter, because if this is showing signs of concern, it could cause a fatality. That borders on safety. Okay, now you're there. I don't give a damn if you have a license or not. Can you drive your car? Because there's a whole lot of people with license that can't even drive cars with driver aids. And it sounds nasty and rude, but it's true. The videos are there. It's written in ink on the internet. I don't even know why you'd be questioning what I'm saying. There's also videos on people's statuses of built cars that require work and actual ability to be controlled, and they are being controlled, which is the very nature of roadworthiness. Can you control your vehicle in the event of an emergency? Do you actually have control over your vehicle? Is your vehicle safe for yourself, for the next individual, for the road user in general? Does your vehicle comply with the requirements of lights work at night for you to see and for people to see you? Your brake lights work during the days for you to see and for people to see you. If you don't see someone else's brake lights because it doesn't work, you're going to crash into them, and then you're going to have the argument, yeah, but your brake lights weren't working. No one's going to know. These are government issues and public issues that I shouldn't have to deal with, but I'm taking it upon myself because at the end of the day, it helps all of us. Do your wipers work? Well, we're not going to be racing in the rain, fair, but what if something just happens? You're racing on track, and there's the driver next to you's car comes undone. And the water from the radiator sprays on his windscreen and yours. And we now said, we don't need to worry with windscreen wipers because we don't use them in racing. We don't race when it's wet. But we don't think that little bit further. Or we say, you know what, you've now fitted these components, but you fitted them in a position where under load they are under unnecessary strain. And as a result, it could, but we don't know for sure. We'd actually need to test that. I don't expect you to crash your car. I would actually take it upon myself and say, well, let's replicate what you did and let's stress test it. Something that, could be done, but no one is willing to do it because it costs money and it's coming out of their pocket. And they've, more interest in lining it than actually adding value. I look at it as possibly discovering something and saying, hey, you know what, here's a business venture. Quite simply, I did that earlier. Of a silly query, I was like, well, here's a business venture. Simply. So, people obviously can't think the way I think. People may think better than the way I think. There are some that maybe think exactly the way I think. And as connected as we are, we just don't seem to be reaching each other, or there's just the desire not to reach out. I mean, it's not like I haven't been. So again, I've made the offers, and for those that came forward, great for them. For those that didn't, unfortunate for them. But we can't be worrying about minor issues because of emotions. So, Strictly Street, it's just something that you're going to have to interpret however you want to interpret it, and that is how it applies. Whether we are on the street, whether the vehicles that we employ are street capable, is a street car, and is being utilized in a street racing scenario. It can be whatever you want it to be. I know what it's going to be. And when everyone finds out the day that it happens, maybe the light bulb will go on then. And it's a good thing I didn't give all this information out in 2008. Otherwise, I would have lost all of this to street to strip and to greed. So, we'll see. I mean, if you are interested in knowing more, if you are interested in actually participating as any kind of stakeholder, you're more than welcome to contact me and ask more and find out more. And when it comes to a point where I can't tell you more, I will tell you. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. And I'll give you the reasons why. I'm not going to answer your question with a question. But, tomorrow is a big event in Cape Town. Tomorrow is a big event in KZN. Tomorrow is a fairly big event in Johannesburg. Several of them, in fact. And Free State as well. Northern Cape as well. I mean, we've got Western Cape, Northern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN. And I don't know about Eastern Cape, but that would otherwise make 5 events in 5 different provinces that is going down tomorrow. Now, to me, that is positive. And none of them are MSA events. Now, to me, that's a bit kind of obvious. The sadness behind that. The one that is most likely cancelled, which would have made it 6 provinces. I don't know about the other 3. I don't know about Mpumalanga, Northwest, and Limpopo, because they seem to be suffering. They seem to be a bit quiet. So I don't know if anything's happening at Extreme, because that would sort out in Mpumalanga. Limpopo, I don't know about you guys at Non-Stop Drags, but clearly October would have been a good month. November maybe a good month to have one. I think there's Piper Racing at Brits. possibly. I don't know about tomorrow though, but I recall it being sometime over October. October is generally quiet except for this weekend and maybe the end of the month and one or two in the middle. Northwest, I don't think there's anything happening there. So, 5 out of 9 is not bad. It's not bad at all. It shows that the community and the scene is alive and well. But none of them are MSA. This just gets ridiculous and ridiculous the more I scratch. It just gets more and more ridiculous. And I mean, even with the ongoing issues at WPMC, I even said it works in my favor. All of the best, carry on as you wish, but it works in my favor. Either way. Have a good evening, guys. To everyone competing tomorrow, enjoy. To everyone spectating tomorrow, enjoy. If there are live broadcasts, you are more than welcome to send it to me. I will share it for the greater community. And if I do come across any, I will share them as well. I myself am competing, so if there is anything, it's shared at around 8, 9 early morning, and I can pop it on the platforms and share it with everyone in groups so that they can share it. It's unfortunate that I obviously can't do a live. I'm very sure there are more capable individuals who could. For the life of me, I don't understand why no one has. And if that's down to communication, that is a shortcoming of their own. So, yeah. You're more than welcome to join the group in this description. And from there, we can coordinate and discuss, engage, converse, collaborate. But you're always welcome to send me a WhatsApp if you want to engage. Please share. Please like if you like. Please subscribe if you would want to subscribe. And maybe, we can get to that 100,000. Pump up those views. And we see how these metrics change for the better, for all of us. I would dearly love to be doing lives. I'm focusing on more life, mission critical, life critical needs for communities that are more in need and vulnerable than what we need here from, this platform, for instance. So, it's yet another reason why there are no lives this year. So, yeah, let's see how things go. Thank you for tuning in. And I will see you on Monday.